New to the series? This audio novel is best enjoyed from the beginning. You can find the full playlist right here or in the description.
Chapter 5. A Beacon in the Darkness. The air in the manor, once thick with the suffocating dread of the black rain, now hummed with a different kind of tension. It wasn't fear. It was hope. A fragile, desperate kind of hope. The family meeting last night had changed everything. My mother was the first to act. She spent days in her basement lab, but her work wasn't with test tubes. It was with energy, raw and terrifying. Her power, the catalyst, was a sacrifice, as a warm, gentle light flowed from her hands to awaken powers in others or strengthen them. Color drained from her skin, leaving her pale, a ghost of herself. But she never stopped. Her first subject was my father. He sat across from her, a man who had built an empire on trust and calculated risk. He was terrified, but his love for us was stronger than any fear. As my mother's hands glowed, I saw my father's expression change. He wasn't just my dad anymore. He was a walking lie detector. He could feel every falsehood as a jarring, discordant note in his mind, a cold prickling on his skin. It was the perfect manifestation of his old life's wisdom, a power born from a lifetime of knowing when a deal was a lie. With my father's power now active, he and Seijin worked together, a partnership of old world wisdom and new world pragmatism, set out to vet Seijin's soldiers. My father looked them in the eye, and with a quiet nod for each, he found them all to be loyal. Our people now. My mother, exhausted but resolute, awakened their dormant powers. One by one, they gained new abilities, enhanced strength, a scout with a keen nose for danger, a man who could see in the dark. "It's done," my mother said, her voice a fragile whisper. She collapsed into a chair, her face a stark white against the dark wood. My father put a hand on her shoulder. "You've done enough, Minji. We'll take it from here." The soldiers, now empowered, looked at us with a new sense of purpose. Seijin stepped forward, a grim smile on his face. "Now we go out there," he said, his voice flat with resolve. "We show them that there's still hope in this world." My father, looking at me, then the soldiers, nodded. "We will, but we must do it carefully. We are not an army yet. We are a certain rescue team. Jie, you will be our main source of supplies. Seijin, you will lead the scouts. Your mother and I will stay here and build this place into a real sanctuary." Seijin came to me before we left. He stood beside our armored truck, his face a grim mask. "Jie, I'm not going to lie. This isn't going to be easy. But we need to find more people. We need to be more than just a family in a fortress. I know, and we will. But we need to be careful. The world out there is different now. We can't trust anyone. We can't, but we can try to save them." He gestured to the truck. "We're heading toward the nearest town." It was a small community, but it might have survivors. We'll be back before nightfall. As we drove away from the manor, I looked back at the fortress we were building, the smoke from the newly established fire pit a thin, reassuring line against the sky. I knew that my journey had only just begun. I was no longer just a girl who had been reborn. I was a survivor, a leader, and a protector. I was part of something bigger now. Seijin sat beside me, his gaze fixed on the road. He was a man of few words, but his quiet confidence was a comfort. We arrived in the town in the early afternoon. It was a small place, the kind of town where everyone knows everyone's name. Now it was a graveyard. The scout with the enhanced sight moved ahead, a silent shadow. The man with the enhanced strength effortlessly pried open a jammed door to a small grocery store. We moved quickly. Then a faint sound. A voice. Seijin kicked open a storage room door. Inside, a woman huddled with a baby. I knelt, pulling a water bottle and canned food from my inventory. Their fear slowly melted into shock, then relief. We found more. A young couple, an elderly man, a lost boy. My inventory became a lifeline. The truck filled with the quiet murmur of rescued souls. As he returned to the manor, the headlights cut through the darkness, revealing the waiting faces of our parents and our new camp. Among the rescued was a woman named Mina, a civil engineer in her past life, with a quiet calm and a piercing gaze. At the fire pit, we explained everything. Mina listened, her expression unreadable. She explained her power had awakened naturally, a random, unpredictable side effect of the black rain. My mother's power, she explained, simply sped up and stabilized a process that could happen on its own. I can help, Mina said, her voice soft but firm. My power, if I have the materials, I can build things with my mind. She pointed a finger. A piece of wood floated from a pile, twisting and reforming into a perfect stool. My father's face broke into a smile. A builder, he said, his voice filled with awe. The one thing we didn't have. I looked at Sijin, then back at Mina. My inventory held a universe of resources, and with her power we could build anything. We weren't just survivors anymore, we were architects. The manor was no longer just a fortress, it would become a city. With Mina's power and my resources, it was a promise we were already fulfilling. Houses of wood and stone rose from the ground under her command, solid structures that offered true shelter. My mother, exhausted but resolute, continued her work, using her catalyst power to awaken the abilities of the other survivors that we had saved. First, she awakened the young couple. The man's hands crackled with fire, a bright, dangerous flame that he could manipulate with a thought. His partner's skin grew cold, and she could summon jagged shards of ice from the air. The contrast was beautiful and terrifying. Next was the elderly man, a gentle soul whose hands glowed with a soft green light. He was a weaver, and he could manipulate thick, strong vines from the ground to form living walls and nets. The final one was the young boy. His power was silent and unsettling. He could communicate in the minds of anyone he met, a gentle whisper that bypassed the need for words. It was a new kind of connection, a silent bond that linked us all. With our numbers growing and our powers expanding, our mission became clearer. While Mina worked tirelessly, building a new city from the rubble, we continued to venture out. My inventory, a seemingly endless source of resources, became our lifeline. We traveled from town to town, finding more survivors, some with dormant powers, others without. Each rescue was a small victory against the darkness. It was during one of these missions that we heard the first whispers. A frightened survivor, a teenager who had barely escaped, told us of another camp, a place where a man who controlled the very ground could summon warriors from thin air, and a woman could bend minds with a single word. They weren't saviors. They were predators. The survivors spoke of their leaders, two people that once were called Taewoo and Nari. The names, once a ghost of my past, were now a living, breathing nightmare. I looked at Seijin, and I knew we were no longer just looking for survivors. We were heading toward a confrontation. We returned to the manor. The news, a heavy silence in the truck. My parents, their faces pale with shock, listened as we recounted the story. The father's lie detector ability confirmed every word. My mother, her hands trembling, spoke of the dangers of their powers. Taewoo's territory control, she whispered, with her voice filled of dread. He can create a battlefield from nothing. And Neri's honeyed whisper? She can turn a friend into a foe with a single word. We spent the next few days in a quiet, frantic preparation. The manor, under Mina's command, became a true fortress. Its walls reinforced with stone and metal, the fire and ice couple trained, their contrasting powers a dance of destruction and defense. The weaver created thick, living walls of vines, a natural, impenetrable barrier. My inventory became an armory, filled with weapons and supplies.
But we knew a fortress was not enough. My heart pounded with a new kind of fear, a different kind of purpose. I had escaped my past once. Now it was coming for me, armed with my memories and their own twisted vision of the future. The final battle was coming, and there was no turning back.
The story doesn't end here. New chapters are coming soon in the official playlist. Stay tuned, and thanks for watching.